I'm going to record
Okay.
and then live on Facebook. Let's see. Okay, it says preparing live streaming preview.
Oh, because I was going to say, I don't see it yet.
Okay, I think we are live. Great. So welcome everybody. I am here with Monique Russell. I'm so excited. She is my first Wise Leader for the virtual book tour, and I am thrilled to be here with her. A few words about Monique. So Monique is coming to us from Atlanta, Georgia. And she is a leadership and executive coach with a specialty in communications. And her company is Clear Communication Solutions. And she can help you and your teams communicate better, use better emotional intelligence for your leadership, and achieve your goals better through that communication and getting your team on the same page. So welcome, Monique. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk about this topic of wise leadership.
Thank you. Thank you. So, yes, so we're talking about wise leadership. My book launched this week, Unleash the Wise Leader in You, A Woman's Guide to Leadership. And so that is our topic tonight. Monique, how would you define wise leadership?
Well, for me, it is pretty much being able to have an understanding of yourself, being able to be really self-aware, and to have those critical thinking skills that allow you to just trust yourself. To me, it's like a lot of trust, being able to trust yourself, being able to know yourself, being able to, no matter what's going on around you, own and respect that truth and your trust. To me,
Mm-hmm.
that's wise. That's being wise, because it's so hard to do sometimes, especially when you have all those conditioning factors and environmental factors around you. It can be hard to trust your intuition and trust what you truly feel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that really ties in with wise leadership principle number 3, find your voice, right? Because it's really about finding your true, authentic voice and not having to imitate someone else or copy someone else, whether that's, in corporate, and if all your bosses are male, copying that male leadership,
Mm.
or, just a lot of times women wrestle with being told they're too aggressive or they're too weak. And so they can get caught up in that game. And it's really just about tuning back in, right, to what is your voice, regardless of what's going on out here.
I actually had 2 clients who said that the other day, like, being weak, just feeling like they were um coming across as weak. And there's so many different labels women have to navigate through. You're too strong, you're too bossy, you're not speaking up enough, you're too quiet, you're too promotional.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, where does it end?
Right, right. So what are some of the things, like we're on this topic of our voice and women in leadership, what are some of the other struggles you think women in particular face as they're coming into leadership?
So, I mean, just like trying to figure out their voice, trying to find it, trying to connect with their story. I think a lot of women have a challenge sharing their struggles or sharing their stories because, like you said, with the whole imitation thing, and not being authentic, we see this model or example And not a lot of women who are in leadership are using their stories or their voice to make a connection. It's this dominant male masculine approach. And so they don't want to come across as being weak or being seen as weak or not competent enough. That's another one that comes up a lot. Like, I don't want to come across as though I don't know what I'm doing, but you do know what you're doing, and nobody knows everything. So, coming across as competent is really important, but I think that also tends to fall into the perfectionism aspect, because I know I struggled with that as well. Like, years ago, I struggled with fitting in. I struggled with perfectionism. I had this whole, it has to be right. It has to be this
Mhm.
way. I'm
Mhm.
not going to be doing anything if it's not done in excellence, aka perfectionism. Sometimes sometimes that's a code word for perfectionism. So I think that, at least for me, being able to truly embrace who I was and then sort of find my own definition of what success and what leadership was
Mhm.
was important for me. And then once I had that new narrative and that new script, then I was able to just, okay, operate from that script instead of someone else's script. Get off that hamster wheel. Stop checking those boxes.
Right, right. And I think some of that perfectionism comes with that like comparisonitis, right? That you're talking about, just this checking other people's boxes or looking around for that external validation rather than just owning being good enough. And then I think that comparisonitis can really lead us to, principle number 4, lift each other up, because when we're comparing and feeling competitive, we tend not to lift each other up, right? We get into this scarcity mindset, and like, if she wins, then I lose. And lift each other up is really the opposite of all that, wouldn't you say?
Oh my God, yes. That's one thing I love about your book, because I mean, you hit it so hard and clear about this whole lack mindset and then how it shows up in the workplace, in your home. You may say, yeah, that's true. We don't really have a lot of opportunities. There may just be 4 positions and 3 of them might be men and 1 spot is reserved for a woman. But truly what I love about what you had shared in your book was pretty much around how to get over that, like how to embrace that, even if you feel like you're stuck in that lack mindset or in that scarcity mindset. Because the thing is, you compare, you're always going to be setting goals according to something else and someone else. So when you get that goal, at least for me, I know when I'm working with leaders, like when you get that goal, you may feel like, okay, what's next? When you talk about your what's next syndrome, you're like, okay, what's next? What's next? I've already done that. I've already gotten those degrees. I've already gotten this credential. I've already gotten the house. I've already gotten all this stuff, and I still don't feel fulfilled.
Right,
So, yeah.
right. And I think that's what what's next syndrome is all about, right? It's using all these outside wins to try to fill our insides and try to feel good enough, right? And that's kind of where the imposter syndrome comes from, when you don't believe you're good enough, when you're looking for all this outside stuff to validate you, but then you still don't believe it, so you just feel like an imposter. And
Mm-hmm.
then that often prevents women from taking that next step, right? From really unleashing their ambition, because they feel like, well, I'm not really good enough and I'm going to get found out,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep. I think, you know what, with imposter syndrome, this is coming up so often and so much, and I feel like we kind of put this fight, it's like we're in this fighting mode, or let's get that imposter syndrome there, and we're gonna just like get in the ring with it and box it up, or fight it. And I feel like if we were to shift our way of approaching it, and recognize, like, you shared a lot about the neuroscience of the brain and how it works in your book. So just like focusing on understanding that aspect and embracing it, almost like if you were going to the bathroom, it's a normal body function. I remember one time where I had to use the
I love
bathroom.
that comparison.
And when you have to go to the bathroom and you holding it, you're just like, okay, I'm gonna finish this, I'm gonna hold it. And then eventually you gotta go. So I think imposter syndrome is like that. You just like, okay, push it, hold it. But it's a natural physiological thing that you explained so well. So understanding that it's natural and being able to embrace it as opposed to fighting this body function. Because I mean, just like going to the bathroom, you hold it too much, you're gonna have some issues, some infections, you're gonna have some kidney problems,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing. You have to expect imposter syndrome to happen when you're up leveling, right? Because you're stepping into new territory. You're stepping into more leadership. And there's this part of you that doesn't recognize yourself yet because you still see yourself as your old self, right? And your psyche kind of has to catch up.
Yeah, I was saying the other day, like in terms of the looking back at, what have I done in the past? It's just 3 years ago, or even 2 years ago, the things that may have frightened me or, felt afraid to pursue. Like today, I'm like, I got it, but then you also want to keep, pushing yourself or stretching yourself too, so that you're always growing. Otherwise you get complacent.
Right. And it's true. It's like the things you were afraid of 3 years ago now are like, oh, I do that all the time, right? But then it's kind of time there is a little bit of what's next, right? Especially as leaders and high achievers. And it's not about like not pursuing, right? Not pursuing those goals, but it's about also taking time to pause and to savor and celebrate each of the wins before you move on to the next goal.
Yeah, that was a problem for me in the past too. Like I was running like the speed racer on that cartoon commercial.
Right.
Just going. That, let me tell you, it was a cocktail of perfectionism, high performance box checker syndrome, what's next or whatever have you. But really, what helped a lot? Coaching, meditation, therapy, those things have changed my life. I mean, they literally changed my life. And so I think now I can see, and I have so much more compassion for other people who are facing that. It's not as, it's not as judgmental. It's not from a judgmental lens. So when we're able to do that, I feel when we're able to really take a good look at ourselves, be introspective and be wise leaders, then we have so much more compassion for other people around us.
Absolutely. It's like when you turn that focus back on yourself rather than judging others, then you enrich your life and you can have that compassion and non-judgment for others, which then, blossoms those relationships and helps others grow as well.
Yes, that hits to the core because that is my whole mission, but to help people have positive, productive relationships, to really have that experience that they desire, because I've gone through so many of those experiences on my own. And I know that when I had those experiences, my relationships weren't as deep as they could have been. I used to judge my family members. I used to hold people to different higher levels of perfection because I was a perfectionist. I would just complain, oh, okay, you can't even get this right. You can't even do this right. Just get out of my face. But, now embracing that, even for myself, If there's a mistake, if there's an error, I mean, done is better than perfect. It's just good enough. It doesn't have to be all right. And in the
Mhm.
past, if I shared something and there was an error or a mistake, oh my God, I would shut down. But now I'm like, it's okay. And sometimes I leave it intentionally because I want people to know that perfection doesn't exist. And I
Yeah.
feel for leaders, especially as women leaders, we
Mhm.
tend to want to project that image of perfection, but it does so many people that are watching and that are inspired by us an injustice because now they say, I want to be like that. How do you not let anything get to you? How do you stay so positive? You think I'm positive all the time? I'm not. I'm not.
Yeah.
Things
My
get
my
to me.
clients say that too. You're the most positive person I know. And I'm like, all have our moments.
We do. And we have the tools.
Yeah. And that's part of why I went on last week, after being up till 2 a.m. working on the book and getting on and saying, this is really what a book launch looks like. I'm tired. I have my glasses on, my hair pulled back, right? But I think it's so easy as leaders to feel like we always have to be perfect. And I think you're right in that it does an injustice to the people who are watching us because then they think they have to be perfect too.
Mhm.
And I don't think you have to show up as a hot mess,
No, we can't have that, Dr.
right?
Donna.
But some humility,
Yes.
some recognition of the struggles. We were not born wise leaders. We cultivated wise leadership in ourselves, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Through that stretching process.
Yes, yes. Is there a point in your life, Monique, where you can say, like, that was really a turning point for me that I stepped into my wise leadership?
Hmm. I feel like there were several points along the way that kind of helped me out. Some were business related, others were just personally. But if I could go all the way back, I would go to, like, there was a time when I was in high school and
Mm-hmm.
I was in performing arts, and so I used to do drama, and I used to compete in the National Arts Festival. And I typically would do solo pieces, and I loved acting, loved being on stage. And this one time, my language arts teacher, she signed us up to do a pair. Like it was a skit, with two people. So we weren't doing solos. And I said, I think we should do solos. I really think we should do solos because just the whole acting style didn't really mesh. But anyway, we went and we did our performance, and it was the first time that we lost. And I was so upset that immediately, this is when I didn't have as much restraint, Dr. Donna. So I was like, and I did, I turned and I did like that. And so the next day, like when we got in the car, she was driving us back to school and she was upset. Like, why did you do that? This is this. And you know what? We have to go back. You have to talk to the judge. You have to say all these things because we have other skits coming up for the school and it's going to impact the scoring. And so she was like, this is what you have to say. You have to say that, you know what, you were having a bad day, things went off, you just didn't mean, how you behaved or whatever have you. And I was like, but no, like that's how I felt. And so anyway, she was like, this is going to impact all the other scoring. And so the next day we drove back to the festival because other people were doing their performances, and she took me to the judge, and we got to the judge. I just said what I truly felt, and so she tried to compensate there and make up some other stories. And when we got back, she was just like, I told you to say this and you said that. And I felt so proud of my little ninth grade self. Okay. I was like, for me, it felt like the beginning of really using my voice and really even though around me I was being pressured to do something for the good of the scoring of everything else, I
Yeah.
feel like that was a moment that I can remember. It comes up so vividly for me, where I just kind of own that space, and regardless of the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that sounds to me like principle one, claim your leadership, and principle three, find your voice, right? Like you just
Mm-hmm.
really stepped into it. And I think you make a good point that being a leader is not about holding the status quo, right? And it's not necessarily about appeasing people. It's really finding your own way. And my husband has this expression like, if you want to be a pioneer, expect a few arrows in your behind.
He's right. He's right. Where
Right?
else are they gonna go?
Right? If you're leading the pack, but that's what a wise leader does, right? Right? I know, I love that expression, right?
Yes.
And it's like we have to expect that. Not every moment's going to feel good. Not everybody is going to agree with us.
Yes.
And that's one of the things I write about in the book is sabotage, and how, whether it's our bodies or our friends or, our lives, we're programmed for homeostasis. And so we don't like when, homeostasis is disrupted, but it's the only way to step into leadership. And so when you leave that status quo, you might find sabotage cropping up, whether it's you sabotaging yourself or your loved ones. And I'm not even saying intentionally, although that happens too,
Mm-hmm.
but they want to draw you back in, and you have to really build your strength to tolerate that.
I feel that, oh my goodness, that is so true, especially when you say about not being intentional, because sometimes that programming, let's just say, you might have gone through an awakening period or an awakening or discovery process, but not everybody around you may have had their own awakening or even at the same time, and it you might be focused on growing and blossoming and stepping into your truth and your power, and the people around you may feel like, well, what are you doing? Sometimes those feelings of sabotage are activated when they see someone else stepping into their power. And I've had that several times. Of course, I have a lot of people who send messages about being inspired and very encouraging and very supportive. And at the same time, I do have people who feel like, you shouldn't have said that, or, it's too, just, you gotta stay humble. And and the humble, I've observed, the humble, when you look at the context of what's said, has nothing to do with humility. It's just that content may feel uncomfortable for the person who is observing, and so they feel like they have to come and protect you, and you gotta, don't say that, don't say stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Rock the boat and don't be too visible.
Oh my goodness. Yes. I remember I've had there, oh gosh, I got some stories. I've had people reach out. I don't hear from them. But maybe there's something that I have shared publicly, and I would get a call or a text or an email. This is wrong, or you need to fix this. And I'm like, it's going to stay there, because now it's that feeling, that fear, their fear,
Mhm.
that is being projected, that, okay, you're going to look like you're not a professional. Well, I know I'm a professional. I
Yeah.
get results. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it can feel um it can feel like almost taking off your clothes, right? As you start to expose yourself and your true beliefs and your true values and what you stand for in public. And people can be like that, those are taboo topics, or we don't talk about that, or you don't speak like that. Yeah, so it's really part of that pioneership. It's part of that finding your voice, unleashing your ambition, right? Sometimes when you unleash your ambition, it doesn't look so humble, right? You're like,
That's true.
right? Like, I want to speak on stages across the world and I want my books to be bestsellers. And that doesn't necessarily sound humble, but how do you humbly unleash, right?
But that sounds humbling to me. You know what I mean? So that's why I think you talk about this in the book too, about getting your tribe. You gotta have the right people in your ear, because I hear that and I'm like, yes, me too. You know what I mean? Go for it. Here's a place. But someone else might hear that and they may feel like, okay, no, you're a woman. Why do you want to have that goal? Like,
Mm-hmm.
no, so
Right.
when you talk
Or,
about this,
you're a mom. You can't do both of those things. What about
yeah.
your kids? You're going to be away from your kids, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
That.
Oh, people can be so judgmental.
Yeah, and there's still this, and it's statistically true that women, regardless of whether they work part-time or full-time, they are still, the main caregiver and the main running of the household, right? The chores, the errands, the dinner, all of that. And so we are still juggling all of that while pursuing our careers. And there can be judgment around that about,
Mm-hmm.
where a woman's place is, and I love Ruth Bader Ginsburg is saying, women should be everywhere decisions are being made, right?
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and you make a good point too about in the book, we talk about assembling your tribe and really consciously doing that and kind of weeding out your tribe as well, because the people you unleash your ambition with need to be your people who are applauding you, holding you up, seeing the vision for you. You don't want to surround yourself with a bunch of naysayers who are going to say, tone it down a bit. That's too big. Right. Yeah. And that's so important to kind of collect your people. And I think that's another place where having a coach really comes in, because that person is, helping you move along, helping you step outside your comfort zone,
Yes.
holding you accountable. And, one of the things I love is seeing the possibilities for that person. Right.
I love coaching. I love it so much. I just feel it's one way to maximize your impact. It's one way to maximize your fullest potential. And coaching for me, I mean, it just gives me joy when I can hold a space for someone and really help them, get to that place of clarity. Because so many times I hear people who say, I'm feeling stuck. I don't know what to do. I don't even know where to start, or I have so many ideas. Where do I even begin? So getting that clarity, I feel the coaching will help anybody who's interested in at least knowing what the next step is.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that moment where they have the big aha and it all becomes clear, and their action steps are like, I can do that. And I can do that. And that
Yes.
makes sense. And that feels right. I get that. It's just really, it's such a collaborative experience, which I
Exactly.
really love, where you're really just creating this great brain hive, right? Where you just really bring in the best of both people to create something better than either one of you could have created on your own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's why I wish that coaching didn't have such a negative rap sometimes, because, the benefits are so astronomical. It's almost like, you don't have a coach, you haven't experienced a coach. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think, I think the industry will get better and better, and that people will see that. And when you're working with a really professional, highly qualified coach, such as myself or yourself, the results are so phenomenal that that I think, you know, people hear about it and they want that too. I think people sometimes, you know, especially women, can have a hard time in investing in themselves, right? They will do anything for the family, for the kids, you know, and sometimes it's really hard for them to give themselves what they would give anybody else.
It is so true. I will tell you something. Can I say something? I remember like before, entrepreneurship has really helped me a lot too. Because before I would think, when I didn't have entrepreneur brain, I would think, okay, I'm just gonna get this, you know, I'm gonna figure out how to do this on Google, or I'm gonna get this for free, or I'm gonna piece this. I used to be like, let me get the free stuff. Until I got exposed to other people and other levels and new tools. And when I saw that, okay, coaching was a way to, you know, really grow yourself. And I started investing with my first coach, and I saw what happened. You know, the first time I was like, okay, well, we could just kind of talking. You know, I was curious. I was just curious to see what all of these leaders and executives around me, why they had a coach. I was like, okay, y'all got a coach, I need a coach. Whatever y'all got, I got. And so I started, you know, just out of curiosity, I invested in my very, 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 very first coach. And from there, I was like, in retrospect, look at all the stuff that I've been able to accomplish. Look at the self-awareness that I've been able to experience. And then it was off to the races. So once I changed my mindset and the way I approach coaching, it became like an investing machine, because it was like, I'm my biggest asset. I tell people I don't want stuff. You know, it's my birthday, it's a holiday. Don't give me stuff. I don't like stuff. I'm the declutter queen. I will probably be gifted before it hits my door. So give me a coach, give me a high-powered coach, give me a high-powered therapist, give me a nutritionist. These are the things that I already know what's going to happen on the other side of that. I know what's going to happen on the other side of that. So.
Yeah. And it's having that belief in yourself too, right? That you are going to show up and do the work and get the result because you're investing yourself as well into the process.
Yes. That's a good point too. That's a good point, because sometimes people will invest monetarily and they won't invest physically or mentally or emotionally. So it's I think that's still part of that box checker syndrome. Okay, I need a coach. Here's the money. I can afford it. I'll pay the couple $1,000s and I got a coach. But that belief system hasn't really activated and connected fully to show up for yourself. So it's still a little bit of that high performance box checker.
Right. And I think that's, you know, that's part of when you cross over into wise leadership, is really investing in yourself, not just the money, but your, you know, body, mind, and soul, really, that you're like, I deserve this kind of life, and I'm called to leadership in some way, whatever that looks like for you. You know, my calling, I believe, is to create 1 million conscious leaders in the world. And that's part of my why. I'm not going to reveal all of my why yet tonight because we have lots of these interviews coming, and it is in the introduction in the book. But you know, that's the end result I want. And by writing this book, I am able to reach so many more people, because I'm limited in how many people I can take on as coaching clients. But this is a way for me to share that knowledge with so many more people.
Yeah, it is a great book. I have read the book. I mean, it's like you have a mini coach in the book, you know. You learn, you have the action steps, you learn, you have the action steps, you know. So it's like a mini coach session on wise leadership.
Yeah. And that's what I wanted it to be. I really, I feel so strongly about people getting value and results. And I know that just spinning knowledge around in your head is just not enough. You've got to do the work with it to really process it and own it. And that's why I designed the book this way, to have all of these action steps to really get you there. And thank you for saying that, because that was exactly my intention.
Yeah, it's a good book. It's a good book. I have to go back and do the exercises that require the space in between, so you can't just rush through it.
No, you can't. You can't. You have to take a day off here and
Yeah.
there, right? Process it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Monique, for coming on tonight. I am just so grateful for your wisdom and for joining us and for being a wise leader out in the world and changing people's lives.
Oh, this was fun. And thank writing the book and getting this gift out into the world and sharing it with so many people, because I know it will change lives. It's already changed mine. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. I'll have to have you on again sometime.
Yeah, that would be fun. That would be fun. We'll do part 2.
Yes, part 2. I like that. All right, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night, guys.